and it's the Keyboard Breakers. They've done it again.
Is this the biggest panel we've ever had on, Jason?
One day you'll have a guy throwing mid-70s, and next week you have a guy throwing 55-mile fastballs.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Ballcaps Bagpipes, a Scottish baseball podcast. We're back with a recap of Opening Day 2023 in Baseball Scotland. I'm your host, John McKellar.
And I'm your other host, Jason Dare, former league president and Baseball Scotland Hall of Famer.
Jason Dare, we just had opening week this past Sunday. Obviously, this Sunday, yesterday, we didn't have any games for Easter. But I saw your good self at the ballpark over in Edinburgh, throwing out the first pitch just before you headed off to Sweden.
Yep, I'm currently broadcasting from Sweden, so we don't have the usual man cave stuff in the back here. But yes, I was honored that they asked me to come down and throw the first pitch for the game. I felt a little weird to go down there and kind of wave to everyone and throw a pitch, then go run off to catch a plane.
It was a great game of baseball last Sunday in Edinburgh, which we will cover shortly. Before we get into any games, let's welcome in our guests for this week. And it's a couple of guys representing the Glasgow Baseball Association. We've got the single A managers from Glasgow. First off, we've got from the Comets, Danny Quinn.
Hello.
Danny, welcome back to the show. It's good to have you back, man. We'll chat a wee bit about the Comets off season, that excellent start last week, and where you see things going from there. We also have from Glasgow Galaxy, the single A manager there, Jacob Wright. How are you doing, Jacob? Thanks for coming back on the show.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks.
Yeah, and likewise, we'll talk about last weekend. You guys got off to a bit of a tough start last week with a couple of losses, but massive opportunity to put that right this weekend. I'm going to be up in Aberdeen watching you guys, so it's going to be interesting to see how you guys respond. So we'll talk a wee bit about that, talk a bit about the Galaxy's off-season and what you guys expect from the season ahead. But before we do it, let's first off look at the Week 1 scores in Baseball Scotland. So I'm just going to bring these up here. We'll start in Edinburgh, which was the live streamed game last week. The final score in the AAA game there was Edinburgh Diamond Devils 3, the defending champion Cannons 18. They won that game by the Mercurial, 15 runs after 5. Deceptive scoreline, I think, a wee bit. It was actually a closer ball game than the score would indicate. There was one big inning where I think the Cannons scored 9. That really broke that game wide open. But until then, they jumped out into like an early 8-0 lead. Kit Serrell threw really excellently on the mound. But the Devils started to click midway through the game. They managed to put 3 on the board pretty quickly, and it looked like they might actually have a comeback in them before a couple of tough breaks just did go the Devils' way, and they ended up dropping 9 in that one inning, of course. Then a walk-off Mercurial win when it got to the 15-run gap. So, Jason, you were there for the pre-game festivities. You didn't stick around for the game. You had a plane to catch, like we've mentioned. But have you managed to catch up with any of the action from last week?
No, not yet. I was going to ask you how'd it go. Did you run out of stuff to talk to for covering a live game?
So the interesting thing about it is, right, I was absolutely melted. I had been up all night watching WrestleMania, so I was completely dead. So at one point, I flubbed. I tried to say that the ball had gone fair and ended up saying flare. So then I just tried to turn that into like a segue into chat about Charlotte Flair's performance at WrestleMania.
I was going to say Ric Flair. I said, there you go. You got a new catchphrase there. You're going to start going, woo-wee! That's going to be...
No, I don't think so. My wooing days are behind me.
Okay.
In many ways, more ways than one. But yeah, so a massive scoreline, but I think a deceptively massive one. It was a closer game than it would indicate, and I think the Devils have reasons to be cheerful, especially considering some of the adjustments they had to make quite late in the off season and heading into that opening day game.
Well, it's good to hear. Like I said, I like to see when the teams are fairly close and like it's competitive games for everyone all through the season. Like I said, no one likes getting humped by 10 runs and doesn't make for very fun baseball. But you know what? If there's one bad inning, then that's something you can improve on and take it from there. And next week, hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I mean, all of us have at some point or other been on the end of one of those like score lines. There's not a whole lot you can do about it a lot of the time when that does happen. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. Obviously, the Edinburgh Cannons are the champions for a reason. They're still a very stacked lineup. If anything, they've probably improved this off season. So they're going to be very difficult to get runs off of, and when a couple of errors happen or when a call doesn't maybe go your way, that can really dismantle a team's momentum against a team like the Cannons pretty much instantly, which is kind of what happened last Sunday. Other games across the league were also quite close. The Tayport Breakers in their home opener defeated the Granite City Oilers by a final score of 10-7. A pretty close game there against the double cup winning Breakers last week for the Oilers. So it looks like they've made some marked improvements.
That's great to hear from the Oilers to see they've come into a close game opening day. I'm guessing it was a bit cold up there regardless. They might have played a little bit into the factor of that there, but the fact that it's a close game to start off the regular part of the season, Aberdeen could be a dark horse. You never know. They might snatch a couple of wins from people not expecting it.
Yeah, I mean, they finished last place last year. I think kind of understandable, the situation that they had been in for quite a while by that point. If they can get a few wins, though, on the board this year, there's nothing stopping them from challenging for fourth place. I think what's remarkable about the 6 teams in AAA this year is that absolutely any of them could potentially be in playoff contention this year. I don't think there's a single team that you can rule out early on, and I think that the opening day scores are quite indicative of that. The last score that we're going to talk about, and obviously the focus of today's show, is the Glasgow Derby. It was the Galaxy playing host to the Comets. They also played the only single A game last week. It ended 14-0 Comets. I think the key moment of that would be Roberto Carlos, who pitched technically I think a no-hitter. I don't know that it necessarily counts because it was less than the 5 innings, but no hits allowed over 4 innings pitched. A tremendous performance by Roberto, the big lefty. It takes about half an hour to throw a pitch, but when it does, it can be quite effective.
But we don't have the pitch clock at Scottish League yet. I thought we were totally putting that in this year.
God, I hope not. No, throw that right in the bin. But the other result, of course, the AAA, which was a 9-2 Comets win, so it was a sweep on the day. And we're going to talk first off to Jake from the home side, the Galaxy. Jake, first off, welcome again back to the show. Would you like to start by going into a wee bit of detail on the Galaxy's off-season and how you guys feel coming into the season?
Yeah, we feel good. I think coming into the season from the off season, we had a lot of moves going on in Glasgow. We had some new players coming over and a lot of new arrivals to both the single A and AAA rosters, which it gave us a lot of depth. I think, especially at AAA, and I think a couple of our hiccups last Sunday were largely down to kind of miscues, things with signs and stuff like that, which I think will get ironed out after a couple of games, and we'll turn into a much stronger team. But yeah, there was really good turnout over winter training and stuff like that. So I'm feeling very positive about this year. We've kind of come a little bit on now from that core that we used to have, and it's just kind of evolved on from that. And I think the team we have now could certainly make a good go of it this year.
Yeah, now you only narrowly missed out on the postseason in AAA last year, Jake. It was on the final day of the season. I think if it wasn't for us getting absolutely gassed by the Breakers, you guys would have made it in. That we just
conspiracy. Yeah. You don't need to tell me. That's
Jake. I'm going to go on the record and say I wish it was a conspiracy. I wish it was something that simple. We were awful that day.
You will never ever convince me. I'm sorry. I have no doubt in my mind. You guys stabbed us in the back. No, I'm kidding.
We got humped. As I recall, that was quite a deflating day for us all. But we don't need to dwell on last season. You guys obviously you came within a game of the postseason last year. Now, a club like the Galaxy, who won 3 straight trophies, who won the League and Cup double, you guys want to be there every year. Do you feel you guys have taken the necessary steps to get back into the playoffs this year? And who should we be looking out for in terms of new arrivals?
Yeah, I think we've certainly done enough. The league is getting really competitive at a quite astonishing rate, especially from when I joined. I don't know what it is now, five years ago. But in terms of the new arrivals, we've got guys like Charles, Wei Shen, Kai, just depth all over the field, infield, outfield, and a new catcher. And I'm sure I'm missing someone out, but they can all hit and they can all field their positions really well. So we have really great depth to our lineup, and a good amount of speed as well, which is something that we've kind of been lacking at times. Some of those new arrivals can really run. So yeah, I think we're certainly going to be exciting this year, at the very least, I think.
Yeah. Now, in addition to playing on the AAA Galaxy last Sunday, you pitched and you also played some right field. You're also the manager of the single A Glasgow Galaxy side. You guys have had quite a few, like you've mentioned, new arrivals, both in AAA and in single A. How involved have you been in the recruitment process in terms of the single A people? And how are you feeling about managing the Galaxy at single A level this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible how many new arrivals. I mean, Danny, I'm sure you can speak to this as well. Just in the new influx of kind of rookies and people at the single A level, people want to try out the sport in Glasgow. It's been a huge growth over the past couple of years. So much so that we're offering additional training sessions and things now. So in terms of recruitment, we've definitely improved our social media output and generally how much information we put out to the public, but it's not like we've done kind of anything especially targeted. I think it's just kind of grown organically, although I'm sure we'll get someone from the committee going, that I've missed out on someone's hard work here. But but in terms of this Galaxy single A this year, I think we've maintained a core that was kind of formed at the start of the single A development league, which was a couple years ago. We had people join the Galaxy, start off there, and as the single A league has evolved, they've also grown and become better players. So I'm feeling really positive about it because we have this kind of core of single A players who can hopefully progress even further, but now they've got very good fundamentals, and can be kind of a good point for newer players and rookies to look to, and some of those rookies, are already, standout players, and some real athletic talent there. So, yeah, on the whole, single A feeling pretty good this year, despite the scoreline in the first week. That was a great performance by Roberto.
Yeah, you mentioned Roberto's performance, and we'll touch on that a wee bit later with Danny. But solely focusing on your guys, how do you approach? Because I feel like different single A managers take different approaches to game time in terms of the single A division. What's your kind of preferred approach in terms of how you pick your team, how you manage innings?
Yeah, so it's kind of a new problem actually, because last year we didn't, the roster has grown a lot over the past year, even since the end of last season. So it wasn't as much of a challenge not even to get players in the game, but sometimes you'd only have 9 players turn up. But I think we had 16 there on Sunday or 17. So I think it required a bit of a rethink on my part in terms of how game time was handled. And that's, part of why we've introduced these new training sessions. It might be single A, but the single A is now really competitive. You have really good pitchers like Roberto pitching, and people who've played for several years now, 2-3 years, it's just a bit different from when you'd get people joining and they had no experience. And when you have people who have a few years of experience now, I think it's going to require a bit more pointed construction of the lineup.
And Jacob, how much do you chat with John Tafe, who's the manager of the Galaxy at AAA level, in terms of player readiness to step up and stuff like that? Have you had any of those kind of conversations yet with John, or are you still
at the AAA level? You said.
Yeah, so like your single A people, how much do you chat with John about their progress and their readiness to make the step up?
Oh yeah, wholly. I mean, he's the AAA manager and I'm the single A manager, so there's got to be a clear line of communication there about players who might be ready to make that step.
And lastly, from me for now, what are firstly the Galaxy as a team? What are your goals? And It feels like a lifetime ago, Jake, but you were the first ever guest on Ballcaps and Bagpipes back in 2019, and weirdly, you'd had kind of a tough season, I think that year. You certainly put that right since. You've had a few really phenomenal years in Scotland. How are you feeling about your personal game, and especially on top of management duties at Single A? And what are your expectations for this coming season?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of team goals, win the league, right? If you're going in wanting to do anything else than that, then I think you got some reevaluating to do. On a more serious note, I think we just want to play competitive baseball. The league is really strong. The Cannons are a great team. Comets are a great team. Aberdeen, things were looking kind of dicey for them towards the end of last year. A couple of them even said that they weren't sure whether the club was still going to be around. But then they, nearly took that game off Taport, who are the double cup champions. So. And we know that Taport are a fantastic team. So the standard of the league is really high, I think, this year. And I think we just want to be competitive and go out and just play good baseball. Because, when you go out there and you start making errors and stuff, and, it's how you spend your Sunday. You don't want it to be a miserable day where you feel bad about what you did. So I think just playing good baseball is the main end goal. And in terms of personal goals, same deal. Try and not suck. That's just want to go out there, just do the same type of improvements that that I've been working on. I think it's one of my favorite things about baseball is that it's a team sport, but it's made up of individual elements. Each individual person working on their own game, contributing to a team as a whole. So try and focus a little more on contact this year with pitching, maybe. Trying to work a little deeper into games or iron out some control issues, stuff like that. But just generally playing good fundamental baseball, I think. So what I always say to the single A guys, no hero moves. Let's just play good fundamental baseball.
Yeah. Well, the mantra you espoused of grip it and rip it all the way back in 2019 seems to have served you well since. You've had a few really great seasons.
Still my mantra, absolutely. Yeah,
you've hit for power. You're pitching really well. So I wish you all the best, Jake. And that's all from me from now. Jason, do you have anything for Jacob at the minute?
No, I was going to ask him about his personal goals for the season because obviously that's the one fun bit. You're the manager, so you get to take the brunt of everyone, make sure everyone's his playing time there. But just more like the personal goals this year. Like, is there one thing you want to do this year that would be the icing on your cake?
Yeah. I think just have like a ERA in the Scottish League is a weird one because you can, I don't know. I pitch a good amount of innings, but offenses are really good. So I think ERAs, unless you're like David and your ERA is like 0.8 or whatever, something ridiculous it is, and you can absolutely blow people away. Have an ERA under 6. I think ERA under 6 would be my goal.
I think John posted your current ERA.
What was it? Was it like 34 or something like that?
It's 10.5.
Oh, I'm halfway there. There we go. Nice. Yeah. So bad. That's not as bad as I thought it was. That's okay.
No, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it is Scottish baseball. You're going to have games that are like 19-16, and then it's kind of like that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You never know what's happened. So that's a pretty good goal to aim for.
Yeah, I think Luke Powell pitched games where there were high earned run totals because, especially if you're like a guy like Luke was who pitches to contact, it's very much still a lottery in terms of like the experience level with people that are behind you in Scotland. It's certainly improved a lot, but still you're going to get bad bounces on fields like Tollcross especially that are going to cause errors and things like that where, things are going to explode. So there might not be earned runs, but there's lots and lots of different things that can happen, and bad bounces count as earned runs, unfortunately, if they get through. So it's one of those things.
I was going to say you just need to tip the scorekeeper a lot before the game and go, those bad bounces were definitely errors.
That was an error, yeah.
The one thing I will say about pitching in ERA is that you don't, and something that was always, Luke was always really good at when he pitched for us, was if you're out there and you're pitching, sometimes you don't have anyone to come in behind you, and you got to finish the inning or finish the rest of the game. Kind of pitching is at a premium in this league, as it is everywhere else, but it's not like we have big bullpens to lean on. So I think that's something that can have an impact is, when it's not, you don't have your best stuff or you don't have your best, mentality on the day, being able to remain focused and keep executing your pitches when normally in a, different situation, you might not have to.
Right, so thanks so much, Jacob, for now. Before we get to you, Danny, we've got some comments. Sweenaroo, who I believe is Andy, says Jakey has really dressed up for the interview. Speaking of Ric Flair styling and profiling, as usual, I think this is Jacob's normal style. Brian Clark says, when we introduce a pitch clock, Roberto is fucked. Craig and I had whole conversations between pitches, and then Roberto responded, ha ha ha, it's about improving, I'll be fine. I've got the best catcher in the league, by the way, referring, of course, to Craig Waddle. Certainly won awards for it last year, so there's not much debate there. Brian Clark, I could still watch the entirety of Battlestar Galactica between galaxy hits. Oh, there's fighting words, Andy. And Brian asks, question, how long is it going to be before we need AA rosters in games too? Jason, you're probably more involved with the board level at Baseball Scotland. Do you have a guesstimate as to how far off that might be? I have a suspicion it's not that far off.
No, I think that's what you're working towards there. I think,
yeah.
And it was funny you talk about how the growth has grown here, and it wasn't until I actually thought about it myself and where I pinpointed where I found baseball, and I love baseball, and that was the 1981 Kirkland World Series baseball champions, and and I'm kind of thinking the same thing now. We're kind of in our growth of the baseball period here again, and that's probably a lot to do to the London series. That's something that's happened. We hit COVID, and now we're looking at 4 years later, people are like, you know what, I actually quite enjoyed that, and I'm old enough to go play it now. So I wonder if that's the start of the growth of baseball back here again.
I think the World Baseball Classic has played even more of a factor, I think, because it's been, some of the games have been on BT Sport. The British games have been on BT Sport. I think the final was also in there. So I think it's more visibility is going to mean more interest. I mean, imagine that. Who would have thought? I think that's why when we had Channel 5 baseball, you had two nights a week, you had games. Granted, okay, they were at 1 a.m, but it was on TV. It was on terrestrial TV free every week. Everybody had it available to them, and that meant more interest. I think the key here is, if people can see it, then they'll watch it. And if they watch it, they might get interested, and then they might want to come play. It's not rocket science, which is where I think in America, a lot of the blackout restrictions are a bit of an issue, because a lot of baseball fans are like, how the fuck am I supposed to teach my kid to follow X major league team when we can barely watch any of the games because of these blackout restrictions? It's just mental. Who would have thought that actual visibility would lead to increased interest in the game? So we've got more.
I know Rob Menefin keeps shooting baseball in his foot there, but yes, I would say that what is the goal? A couple more years from now, you can definitely see there would be a AA league. I imagine that way, and you can work your way up from single A, AA, AAA. So I mean, I'm amazed that year in year out how much baseball has grown since I've retired, and it's only been 6 years ago, and it's getting stronger and stronger, and the level of play gets better and better every time.
Yeah. Paul Convoy is going to have a hell of a lot of headaches in terms of scheduling and stuff like that in the next few years, I think, with the regular season, 3 different divisions. You're going to have the 3 different levels of the Caledonia Cup. You're going to have the tournaments to factor in. You've got Father's Day and Easter and all the rest of that. Better him than me, I must say. We've got more comments here. Jeets26, a.k.a. your co-host of Tea and Tops, Jason, Graham Nelson, says, Happy Easter, gents. Try and not suck would make a great T-shirt. Yeah.
There you go. That could be your shirt this year for the Galaxy.
Graham, it's worth noting, I will be seeing him this coming Sunday in Aberdeen. He will be co-commentating the Oilers Galaxy game with me on the live stream. So I'm looking forward to catching up with Graham. It's funny, I don't actually know that I've met him in person. I don't think I have.
You recognize the voice, you'll be fine.
Yeah, because he stopped playing way before I think I came along.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think Graham, when he moved to Aberdeen in 2008, I think that was he's helped out here and there from there. But yeah. Yeah,
so it's going to be nice to actually meet him in person and chat with him a bit and talk Yankees and call the game. It's going to be great. Brian Clark says, loving the production values, by the way. Thank you, Brian. I threw it together in the space of about 10 minutes before we came on. Roberto has a blank comment, so I don't know if he's just said something so offensive that it's removed it or what, but I agree. Jakey goes the other way with stats. He corrects me to be more harsh against them, says Sweeney. It's a bit of a baseball masochist, are we?
Stats are in baseball. Yeah, there are no gimmies as far as I'm concerned.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. Yeah.
It's the best part of the game.
Yeah. Looking forward to also, indeed, will be our first in-person meeting, says Graham. Ha ha ha, no, says Roberto. Well, what did you say then? I'm curious to know. Why will you gather that together? Haven't said anything. Well, it's right there. Oh yeah. Jeets26 says, "Where's our Reggie bar, Jason?"
It's back home. I'll put it in the post. What you guys put it? You guys are this weekend. I'll be in the post Thursday, and I'll make sure you guys get it so you can split it.
Good, yeah. We'll have a wee romantic moment with a Reggie bar around the commentary position.
I've not even tried it yet. I still have my Reggie bar, so I haven't even had a chance at it.
So, Jason, we have a question for you. What is your opinion about Devils playing for Glasgow? So, obviously, the influx of Diamond Devils players who left Edinburgh and went to Glasgow and are now playing with the Comets.
So, my opinion, it's a bunch of bullshit. Juan's pulled this trick before. He was suspended from Edinburgh baseball and tried to go and play for Glasgow many years ago. And we played one game before we had to suspend him, and he was actually kicked out of the league for overdue fines that he had not paid any membership fees for 3 years. So this is history repeating itself again. So I'm not a fan of anybody switching teams, kind of chasing, I guess, ring chasers. So, if you move to the city, fine, that's fine there. But if you're going to go, you know what, I want to play for this team because I think it's my best chance to win. And that's not cool. Like I said, it's an amateur game. We're all out here having fun. And, if you have your own differences, you have your own differences. But it's odd that 5 guys kind of packed up and moved across the way, despite they're all still in Edinburgh. But.
Well, Elvis, asked and answered.
Yep.
Let's move on to you, Danny. Danny Quinn, Glasgow Comets outfielder, Glasgow Comets pitcher, and also manager of the Glasgow Comets single A side. Let's first off talk about the single A Comets, who you manage. Massive result last Sunday. Roberto pitching the no-hitter through the 4 innings. 14 runs on the board as well, so the bats came alive that game. How are you feeling after that? And would you like to then go a wee bit further back into the off-season and how you feel the off-season went for the Comets as a whole?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's good to be the one person on here representing for all the people whose name doesn't start with J. I'm feeling like a bit of a minority in this podcast, but it's good to be here. Roberto pitched really well. It was kind of on that Sunday bus schedule. We was pitching once an hour sort of deal, but I mean, he got there in the end. He threw 4 shutout innings, no hits. So I think Roberto has improved over the off-season. We haven't really done any training, but he's obviously been working himself to get a bit of movement on his pitches and a bit of velocity on it. He's very, very passionate about the game, so it's great to see. A lot of our guys in the single A have been there the past 2-3 years, so they've kind of had that experience behind them. When you've got guys like Craig Fee and you've got Gordon and you've got Craig Waddle, and we've got a really good core of guys now that have a bit of experience. So they really utilised that experience, probably gave them a wee bit of an advantage because Galaxy were playing a lot of guys that had just walked through the door, a few months ago. So certainly utilised that. And it's a really strong start to the season for us. And a real confidence booster to then take that on to our next match with the Knights.
Yeah, the Edinburgh Knights are coming to town this coming Sunday. It's their first game of the season. What are you expecting from the Edinburgh Knights? Obviously, they were quite competitive last year. I think they ended up 3rd in the single A division. It was quite tight pretty much the year through in single A. What are you expecting for the Knights in their first game of the year?
I think they're always a competitive team, and they've got really even at the single A level, when you've got guys like Mookie pitching and stuff, it can be quite difficult to get hits off them. also got a really good offensive lineup, so you always kind of need to be careful with the Knights and give them that respect that they can take a game from anyone in their day, you know. So I think for us, we just need to be mindful of that and just be, you know, put our best foot forward, put our best pitchers out there, put our best hitters out there, and try and be competitive.
Yep, and at the AAA level, opening day, it was a 9-2 victory for the Comets, so the sweep was completed on the day. How are you feeling about the AAA team's prospects this year, and what are you expecting from the 2023 season?
Really, really confident with the AAA. I think we've got a good culture now in the Comets, and we have had for a while. We have a really good core group of guys, and obviously we've had a few guys come over from Edinburgh that has enhanced what we already have. I think with the 5 new additions that have came in, it's made everyone really mindful that we all need to be competing for playing time. So as well as being competitive with the rest of the league, we're all competing with one another because we want to be in the field and we want to be able to play, you know. So we want to give Jason ultimately an argument that we should be playing, or certainly that's my mindset, you know, to go in there and try and put my best foot forward. So that makes for really good results when you are being mindful of every at bat and you're not taking, you know, your position for granted, and you're trying to continuously improve and be at training. And I think hopefully what that will filter into is results, and that's ultimately what we want, is to be competing. We had a really good year last year, and we just want to improve in that and be in that competition in the running for the league.
Yeah. Now, in terms of you personally, I don't know how much pitching you're going to be doing at single A level this year, but what are you looking to achieve on a personal level with your on-field performances?
I probably will pitch a wee bit at single A. I think Roberto will probably take the bulk of that, but I can't, you know, overlook the opportunity to walk 6 batters with knuckleballs. It's just not in me. So I really want to be taking those opportunities when they come up. So, I guess for me, it's just to improve, really. Like, I feel like I've had a good past couple of seasons. I feel like I certainly did really prioritise learning how to pitch and getting the mechanics down and doing a lot of practice with that. And I probably neglected fielding and even more so hitting. So Jake knows, you know, a few months ago we had the Glasgow Awards and I was picking his ear about hitting. So hitting's my new thing, where I just really obsessed with just learning the mechanics of it and just getting really comfortable in the box. And last year for me, you know, I tended to hit a lot of ground balls, and that was fine because I'm quite fast. So I tend to try and run out if I can ground out to third. But I just want to be hitting them big bombs into Brigton from Toll Cross. So I want to be hitting line drives and want to be just focusing on hitting all over the field rather than just consistently hitting the ball in the ground. So definitely looking to improve in that in the off season.
Yeah, we can't all be Giancarlo Stanton, unfortunately, Danny. God knows I tried in field for a decade to be Giancarlo Stanton. It never worked.
I see Danny as more of an Ichiro type of guy. You know, he just slaps the ball to the other side of the field, but then when he wants to hit those home runs, you know, he just pulls it out of the pocket and puts us out of the park.
You know, it's funny, like I often get told that I'm a pull hitter, and I never consciously try to pull. And last year I got quite a lot of opposite field hits, and I love getting opposite field hits. So definitely just trying to work the ball to all fields is just makes for a complete hitter, doesn't it?
But I think that goes to showing you how much baseball has improved here in the last 5-10 years. You're talking about actually hitting to all fields. It's not like just like, I'm just looking forward to hit the ball and put it in play. It's like, no, I'm actually looking to hit the ball where it's pitched and move the ball there. I think that shows you how much baseball's improved in this country. Yeah,
definitely.
And lastly for me for now, Danny, where do the Comets' expectations lie in terms of positioning this year? What's the goal as a unit? Last season we came pretty close in the AAA league. We had a pretty good season in the league last year. The Caledonia Cup, you guys just narrowly missed out on. You got to the final in single A. Do you guys have a plan in terms of how far you want to go this year, and do you expect to sort of fulfil those plans?
Well, I think that in AAA we want to win as much as we can. You know, we bet some really competitive teams last year. We took 2 from the Cannons, and that was a great accomplishment. And we dropped other games that we probably could have won, and won some ones that we probably could have lost. But I think with the AAA, it is about being as competitive as possible to win that league. That is the ultimate goal, and take that into the off season, that confidence and that momentum. For me, in the single A, it's I've got a very passionate belief for the single A that if people turn up and want to play, they're going to get to play. I believe that we're kind of all out here on a Sunday when our availability, our health, and our passion all sort of aligns. And if either one of them goes, then we're not going to play. So we are, by a major coincidence, just there to. With that opportunity to play, and it's I don't want to overlook that for people. I don't want people coming out and having that passion destroyed by sitting on the bench and not getting that opportunity to play because we want to be overly competitive. So for the single A, I'm centering around inclusivity and the belief that if people want to play, they're going to get that opportunity. Now we've got a really good depth at the AAA now. We've got maybe between 15 and 20 people that are going to regularly be looking for game time. So it's going to be a hard job for me to give them that. But, that's what we're going to do. We are going to try and win every game and be competitive in the single A, but ultimately our ethos lies in being inclusive and making sure people get game time. And then, we're going to get into the postseason because all single A teams get a postseason. And that's when we can maybe get a bit more competitive and make a run for that championship. But up until August, we're passionate about growing that passion.
Excellent, Danny. Thank you so much. Jason, do you have anything for Danny?
I was going to ask him, how's the knuckleball come along? I said, I really enjoyed watching your videos, and they pop up, and it's like, okay, here we go.
It's really interesting. Like, a lot of people say, yeah, I throw out my back, I've got like a rebound in it, and I use actually a T-ball, and everyone's like, I can't believe you're out there throwing knuckleballs, you look like you're going to hit a window. But my back garden is maybe only 40 feet, so I can hit it pretty well from 40 feet, but it's when it gets up to that 60 feet that it gets a bit more difficult. I didn't use it a lot in games last year. I mean, I probably wouldn't. I'm more focused on using other stuff and just building velocity. But I've always been really passionate about that pitch, and it probably comes from seeing Aaron Boone hit that absolute rocket off Tim Wakefield in 2003 when I started watching. Just thought it looks like a pretty cool pitch to hit out of the field. So, it's just something I continuously work on every week. It's just one of the things.
That's one of my 3 favourite. Go on, Jason.
Go for it. I would say I think there's only one knuckleball pitcher in the major leagues right now. There's some guy for the Orioles.
No, I think he's out. You're thinking of Mickey Janis. He's been dropped. I don't think.
Oh, he's dropped now. Oh no.
Yeah, there's none, unfortunately.
Oh man, that's a shame.
Just leaves a big route for me to make my way in there now. So that's good. Big vacancy.
Big gap in the market. Yeah, I was just going to say the boom moment that you referred to is one of my 3 favourite Yankee moments of all time. The other 2 both involved Derek Jeter. One of them being 3000, and the other being Mr. November. Just wanted to add that.
It's wild when you think of Yankees' background, John, and it's just wild to think that they didn't play at all in 2004. That often just boggles my mind.
I like that you're buying into my fantasy canon that I have on the show here, of like just completely ignoring the 2004 result, while Jacob sits here and thinks, no, I remember it pretty well.
I think you both got Derek Jeter gift baskets. I think that's what's going on there.
So I've got a comment, a question that really both of you can answer. It's from Ryan Clark, and it says, I really like the new rule about A and AAA pitchers and catchers. Any comment about that? So Jacob, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I think, and are we referring specifically to you can have either a AAA player at pitcher or at catcher, and the other must be from single A?
Assuming that's the new rule, yeah. I haven't actually been told about that.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's referring to. I think it's a great rule. because they're two kind of pivotal positions on the field, especially in controlling the pace of the game and the cohesion of the team. So I think having a more experienced hand at one of them and trying to get them to develop a point where they can play that position in AAA, or if they're already experienced. But I think having that kind of experienced body there really helps kind of maintain those things I was talking about, team cohesion and the pace of the game. And just, helps usher on the other part of the battery a little better and provides some kind of stability. So I think it's a really good rule, and I think it's one that allows development of those positions while not kind of throwing them to the wolves, so to speak. So, because they are daunting,
Absolutely. Danny, your thoughts?
Yeah, just to echo, I think that those are the two hardest positions to learn, really. So, if you have, someone that's experienced behind the plate as a developing pitcher, it can make it that all that more easier to sort of learn the position and feel at ease. And, or if you are, that developing catcher with a pitcher up that kind of knows the game, it can be a bit more easy. So yeah, it's a good new rule that sort of works in everyone's benefit, I guess.
Yeah, I would probably have to just echo your sentiments both. I would agree with that with both of you. We are getting a bit pressed for time, and we have quite a lot of comments tonight. So let me just try and bash through as many of them as I can here. Fiona Bramley has a really great one, actually. The first female player to play an inning for the Comets debuted this past Sunday. Laura Cameron, congratulations on making history. Laura came along in the off-season. Danny, how's she looking at the minute, and what are you expecting from Laura?
Lauren's great, and she just got such a great attitude that just fits right into the ball club we've got here. She comes from a softball background, so she's got some fundamentals there, meaning that she's better than half the guys in our single A team. And yeah, just a great attitude, great player, great person. So very happy to have Laura on board.
Yeah, I think having been on the team for a decade, it's probably about time that we had more inclusivity in the Comets in terms of having a woman play for us. She's not the first woman to ever be rostered for the Comets. There was one back in 2015 or 16, but I don't think she ever played any innings. So Laura becomes the first to ever actually play for the Comets. But yeah, fantastic news. Sweeney says, can you save those knuckleballs for AAA derbies, Danny?
Sweeney always asked me to throw these, and he forgets I struck him out one time, or the thousands of times I've faced him. I'll always remind him about the one time I got him.
Another question for you, Danny, for Brian Clark. Danny, do you see Roberto stepping up and pitching in relief for AAA this year? Also, if I'm not playing this year, who are you going to strike out knuckleballs? Well, it'll be Sweeney.
We'll just need to be Sweeney, unless Jake's up for it. A little bit. Sorry, what was the first question? That's Roberto. That's completely Jason's call. I don't take anything to do with the management in AAA, but hopefully Roberto can make an argument for his sale, and he's going to be given the opportunity to do that.
Fantastic. Let us see. Just going to try and pick a couple of. That's going to be all for these comments. I've got one or two more for you, Danny, from here. None for Jake, which. Why have we got no questions for Jake? This one actually I can ask you both. So what is your morning routine, and how do you mentally prepare yourself before leading a Sunday game? That's from Said. It was aimed at you, Danny, but I think we'll open that up to both of you because that could certainly apply for you both. Jacob, what's your morning routine in terms of getting ready for games?
Well, my morning routine used to be, it was a game like 3 years ago, and it was the time I hit my first home run. And I was like, this is great. And I had to think, what did I have for breakfast? And all I had in the fridge was smoked mussels, tin of mackerel, eggs, and blue cheese. So I made an omelet with those ingredients. And then because I hit the home run, I then had to have that for every game going forward, which didn't help at all. But it was delicious. But no, my morning routine, get up, shower, get up early, make sure you're, awake for when stuff happens. Usually do a little lineup planning the day before. Obviously, it's dependent on who turns up on the day. But, just making sure the stiffness is the big one, especially because there's so much going on. And if you have to play in the AAA game and manage the single A game, sometimes you get a little strapped for time, finding, time to warm up yourself. So started doing a bit more warm up, just in the house before I leave.
Perfect. And Danny?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I'm always excited in game days, so I'm always eager to get out and get going as quickly as possible. So I wouldn't say there is a routine other than just having a coffee and it's a bite to eat and then getting out there. I think once we get to the park and we get it set up, it becomes more systematic and getting guys warmed up, getting the lineup sorted, talking to the players and getting in that mindset to play. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you'll be loving it this year. You've got that extra 15 minutes on a Sunday morning that you don't have to spend waiting out there for me getting up out of my
Jesus
bed.
Christ, John, I know. Yeah.
So Lawrence Cameron says that the reason no one's asking Jake any questions is because they're afraid of your moustache.
Oh, don't be afraid.
I was going to say that exact thing. I think the mustache is intimidating. This is why I love Lawrence, man. This is he's on my wavelength. It's a mustache Jake needs to go, man.
Come on. I've been looking at it all podcast going, wow. It's so nice.
Jake,
looks so good.
Jake, for what it's worth, Jake, I think it's wonderful.
No.
I saw what Matt Chapman was doing. Matt Chapman?
Matt Carpenter.
Matt Carpenter. And there's got to be something to that. There's got to be. So. Yeah.
I mean, Danny and I, when Mike Ford grew the tash, we actually calculated that he was getting, I think it was 11.3% extra power on his swing because he grew a mustache. It's a true story.
It does
make just be making a smoked muscle omelette. You never know. It might be all down to that.
Lawrence says he didn't say that it needs to go, so he's kind of backtracking, I think, is the issue here. But yeah, so Graham says Jason will confirm that the best pre-game ritual is a 6-hour drive to Manchester and 20 Benston Hedges silver.
Yep. That's how we used to roll.
God, we've come a long way, haven't we, as a league?
Literally, we would pick up Rory at 6 o'clock in the morning after he'd worked all night long, and he'd have a case of Red Bull. And that would get him through the day.
Rudy strikes me as the kind of guy that would do that. No fucks given at all. Right, let's start wrapping things up because we are kind of getting pressed for time. We do have a full slate of games in Triple A to look forward to this weekend. Let's take a quick look here at the schedule for week 3. The Glasgow Galaxy, as we've mentioned already, are travelling up north to the Oilers in Aberdeen. I'll be calling that game on the live stream on Baseball Scotland's Facebook page. I'll be joined by Graham Nelson and hopefully a Reggie Bar. Looking forward to that one. It's going to be good to see the Galaxy in action. It's good to see the Oilers in action, and also on a personal level to catch up with my pal Mark as well, Mark Joss, who plays for the Oilers. So looking forward to that. The Tayport Breakers are in Edinburgh to face the Devils, so that should be a good game as well. We'll see if the Breakers can get off to a 2-0 start at the expense of those Devils, who, like we've said already, they are quite depleted this year, but they play with a lot of spirit. And that game last week, it wasn't as much of a blowout as the score suggested. So it's going to be good to see them play the Breakers and see if they can get off their first victory of the season, especially being the home team. You never know. And lastly, the Comets are hosting the Edinburgh Cannons, so that should be a great matchup. The prospect of Kit Serrell versus either Luis or David. So that should be a great matchup and one that is definitely worth getting along to if you're in Glasgow. The Single A schedule for this Sunday coming is, again, it's just the one game, and it's the Knights at the Comets. So the Comets 1-0, they face the Knights in the Knights' first game of the season, so it's going to be another great game. So if you're near one of the fields, definitely get along. If you're not, then do tune in to the Baseball Scotland Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/Baseball Scotland, and you can join myself and Graham Nelson from 1:20 p.m. on Sunday for the Oilers game against the Galaxy, and we'll be bringing you full live coverage of that. I think that's pretty much about it for this evening, unless anyone else has anything else they want to talk about.
Let's call it a night. But I wish you guys good best of luck up in Aberdeen. I'll be tuning in to give you guys both shit for not including me the crossover show.
that we know it's going to be streamed. We'll make it a spectacle. Don't worry.
Yeah.
One way or another.
One way or another. We had Jason there throughout the ceremonial first pitch last week. We need to try and get someone along to do it for this one. We'll have to wonder who we could get. There's a question for you, Jacob. If you could get anyone from the Galaxy the Galaxy's past to come along and throw out the first pitch, who would it be?
I think you got to give it to Jim Sehar, even though he just retired. It's got to be Jim.
Big Jim.
Yeah,
I didn't actually know that he had retired. That he had made it official. I know that he had been.
I don't know that he has.
Thinking about it. Yeah.
I don't know that he has, or if he's what his plans for playing are this year. But if he is not planning on playing, then Jim. If he is, then that's not very appropriate. I don't know. Maybe. We've had a lot of great players. Chris Young, Luke, a lot to choose from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially from that 3-year period where you won everything. That was a unit and a half. That Brian Clark says John Linton actually threw out the first pitch on Sunday. It's worth mentioning him for the amazing photography work that he did as well at the game. Jason Stott has chimed in here and says, same question to you, Danny, Comet, past or present. If you could get any Comet from the past or present to throw out the first pitch for a game, who would it be?
It's got to be Gio. Maybe Gio. Yeah.
Brilliant. Who do you think from Glasgow will be able to play in the starting lineup for Scotland for the BBL tournament, asks Fiona.
Dare I say everyone? Glasgow Pride? No?
I like it. I'm liking that energy, Jacob.
We got great talent in Glasgow now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially on the the AAA teams. I think just about anyone from the AAA teams could play. Having played in some of the tournaments that Baseball Scotland has played in, anyone from those teams could find their way on there.
Yeah, I think you would agree, Danny, and I certainly would. The quality of the players. I think every position across the two sides is covered, more than covered, by the talent that we have available and kind of in GBA as a whole. But we're going to wrap it up there because we're already well over 53 minutes into this one. Firstly, credits. The intro video was done by Chris Kelly. The logo is by Rylan Kyle, with the concept by Jason Dare. I've been John McKellar. He's been Jason Dare. He's been Danny Quinn, and he's been Jacob Wright. Thank you so very much for joining us, guys. You can find us on social media. It's at Caps and Pipes on Facebook or Twitter. It's Ballcaps and Bagpipes on Instagram. You can find us on Twitch and YouTube as well. And also, of course, follow us, subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. And that's all from me. The only thing that's left to say is Bobby Bonilla. And have a great...
You forgot to plug our stuff. Come on, man. We've got shirts and hoodies and cups now. Put cups up there now. buy our merch. if you want to buy some Ballcaps and Bagpipes merch, then by all means do so. BaseballScotlandShop.com, I think, is the website there. You can buy a t-shirt or a hoodie or a cup, apparently. You can also buy... They were asked for cups, so...
Yeah, you can also buy Baseball Scotland merchandise as well.
Support Baseball Scotland, buy the stuff there. We just happen to latch onto it.
Shameless plug, says Lawrence. Absolutely shameful, shameless plug. Is it a shameless plug if it's on your own show?
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
I don't think so. Yeah.
No. It's just, yeah. Jackie Robinson Day on Saturday. So that's right. We should all spare a thought for Jackie that coming Saturday. So yeah, that's going to be all for tonight. Good night.
All right. Night, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.